Here to weigh in is Kevin McCarthy, former Speaker of the House. Mr. Speaker, I know people have to sell books, and I get that. I understand that. But anyone with one eye, forget two eyes, and one ear, saw this Joe Biden decline. I'm going back to 2019 and 2020. He was slipping, and the slippage kept speeding up as the time was going on. You saw it, and you went on the record about it, I know, in 2024 in that Wall Street Journal article.
Yeah, but that Wall Street Journal article took 6 months to write because everybody was attacking, and they were afraid that they were going to be. Anytime I came forward with the examples that I found this president not knowing where he was at, I got criticized from Morning Joe. They'd go after and just put the attack dogs on me. There was a time when I went into the White House, and the difference was, it's just like the Middle East trip. It's such a contrast to a Biden trip to a Trump trip. You know, in the White House with Trump, things are humming, things are going, everything's moving. When you went to the Biden White House, nobody was there, nothing was happening. And then when you went to the Oval, where everything happens with the president, people coming in and out, nothing was happening. And when you went in to see the president, he asked you if you wanted a cookie. Joe Biden would. And there was this one time I went into the White House and he was disoriented. He didn't really know who we were, what we were doing. And then he took us on a tour back to the dining room. And I remember him saying, Jill was on the other side, and he goes, "You want to go see the pool?" And Jill yells out, No, they don't want to go see the pool. And he goes out that back door, which I've never been out before, that glass, and he takes us down to the swimming pool. And at this moment, I'm feeling like, oh my God, I got to help the White House staff get this guy back into the White House. And it wasn't until we got back in and back in the Oval Office that he started to click and realize who he was with. And then he started to lecture me about something. And I remember each time I would meet with Joe Biden, it was a different Joe Biden. He would show a lot of signs of it. Sometimes he'd get really angry or speak very soft. I remember taking Patrick McHenry in one time, and I warned Patrick ahead of time, watch what will happen here. We won't negotiate with the president. Let him say whatever he wants to say. Sometimes you won't even be able to hear him. Well, and he would turn to Patrick and tell stories from the 1980s. Well,
this is what the elderly do when, sadly, they begin to lose their faculties. It happens to the best of them. You revert to the old stories because that's all you can retain. The things that are happening contemporaneously are hard to process, and with any speed, alacrity of thought, any of that. But I want to get to you on this. Again, this is supposed to be a revelation in this new book that Biden couldn't remember the names of his aides. Okay? He called his national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, Steve. Biden, said the name Steve again, trying to call him into the Oval Office, referred to his current spokesman, Kate Bedingfield, as press. And Sullivan told Politico that he was surprised to read this because Biden knows his name. Again, this is like the Comey story. Comey didn't know what the shells were on the beach, right? So we're supposed to believe in 2024 that the people who saw him every day and interacted with him every day were not really aware of most of this. We're supposed to believe that?
No, they all knew, and they covered it up. Because when I would want to interject if we were negotiating something, you couldn't get to him. But I don't believe the staff saw him every day. I bet it really seemed to me they kept him away from everybody. And there's days he would wake up that they just put a lid on it. I mean, Israel was getting attacked. They decided to put a lid on it. And there was this one time he was supposed to specifically call me. He was overseas in this one window coming on Air Force One. And they made a big point about it the day before. This is the only window. Yeah. And just before the call came, they know, no, we have a satellite problem. And it wasn't until like an hour or so later when we came on, and he seemed as almost he was juiced up. It was the best Joe Biden I had ever heard him talking about issues. Yeah, it was so different. And then he goes, I want to see you tomorrow when I come back. Now I'm going to have to rest for a while. I said, okay, I won't see you in the morning. We'll see you later in the day. And then it was back to the old Joe Biden, who could only talk from cards, was talking about an issue we had taken off the table. Everybody knew it was going on. And from that point of view, they walled him off. And this is what happened once he had that debate with President Trump, and the rest of the country knew it. Did you see how many Democrats quickly said, we need to switch him out? Because they were afraid that they got caught covering up for him the whole time. It was their Watergate.
Well, this will go down as one of the most, I think, serious derelictions of duty that we've seen across the board from top government officials. Irresponsible, and chaos was created because someone who wasn't elected was actually the president of the United States for 4 long years. Biden was never president. Someone else was president. You knew it, and everyone else knew it. Mr. Speaker, thank you for having spoken out, and you knew about this, and you had the guts to go on the record. Thank you very much.